No one would have done what this human did. He saved an alien, and now he's raising their hybrid child. The cold had teeth. Not the kind that nipped playfully, but the kind that sank in deep, gnawed at your bones, and didn't let go. Nathan Cole zipped his thermal jacket tighter, steam curling from his breath as he scanned the frozen wasteland. His boots crunched over the snow-crusted ground as he trekked back toward Outpost Vega, a remote research station buried deep in Alaska's uncharted wilds. Population, 6. Until last night, when it dropped to 5. He didn't talk about what had happened. He just kept walking. Snow swept across the ice plains like angry ghosts. The radio crackled in his pack, but he ignored it. His head was pounding. His hands were shaking, not from a cold, from what he saw crash through the sky yesterday, for what he found inside the crater. It hadn't looked human, not even close. Skin the color of lavender twilight, shimmering subtly beneath layers of frost. Blue hair tangled with blood and melting snow. Eyes, God, those eyes, glowing faintly like bioluminescent reefs, not with rage but fear. She hadn't attacked. She had been dying, and Nathan, against all reason, training, and instinct, had picked her up. Now, she was lying on a cot in the infirmary tent, barely breathing, wrapped in thermal blankets. Hooked 2 and 4. The medical scanner was spitting out gibberish. It didn't know how to read her biology. And Nathan didn't care. He'd seen the wound on her abdomen, a cauterized gash that ran too deep. Her blood was dark violet. Her skin, under the right light, looked almost metallic. He was supposed to report it. Instead, he stayed by her side. He kept the tent heated. He brought her water. He whispered, because somehow, that felt right, soft, calming words. She didn't speak English. She didn't speak at all. But last night, just before falling unconscious, she reached out and touched his face. A single trembling finger brushing over his cheek, like she was memorizing it. He hadn't slept since. Outside, a storm was coming. The clouds were rolling in like dark waves. He needed to power down the outer grid before it fried the outpost. But his feet wouldn't move. He looked at her again. She was breathing harder now. Her fingers twitched beneath the blanket. And then, like lightning cutting through fog, her eyes opened. Nathan froze. She blinked slowly, her pupils adjusting to the sterile light above her. There was pain in her expression, but also clarity, recognition. "Hey," Nathan whispered, stepping closer. "You're safe." She stared at him. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came. Then, with a visible effort, she whispered back, "Nathan." His heart almost stopped. She had remembered his name. He told her, once, thinking she wouldn't understand. He knelt by her side. "You need a rest. You're badly hurt." She looked down at her wound, then back up at him. Her hand found his again. Her skin was worn despite everything. "I protect," she said slowly, accent sharp but deliberate. "You saved me." Nathan swallowed hard. "You don't have to protect anything right now. You're safe. I promise." Her hand moved to her abdomen. She pressed it gently, then looked into his eyes with a mixture of dread and hope. "I carry life." Nathan blinked. "What?" She took his hand and pressed it softly against her stomach. And there, somehow, he felt it. A subtle pulse, a flutter, like something barely beginning. He shook his head. "That's not possible. I mean, we're not even the same species." But the look in her eyes told him otherwise. She wasn't just healing. She was pregnant, and whatever was growing inside her was his. Nathan stood in the dim light of the infirmary tent, his breath shallow. The words she had spoken, fragmented, broken, echoed through his mind like the howl of the wind outside. "I carry life." He wanted to believe she was confused, that the trauma, the injury, the cold, maybe all of it had made her delirious. But her touch had been steady, her eyes lucid, and when she guided his hand to her stomach, something deep and primal clicked inside him. A recognition, a rhythm. Nathan pulled his hand back, his thoughts spiraling. He'd barely survived the last 48 hours. Now this. She lay still now, watching him. Her skin glowed faintly against the lantern light, shades of purple catching along the edge of her jawline, like moonlight on bruised metal. Her hair, what wasn't matted from blood and snow, fell across her shoulder in fine threads of cobalt. Nathan paced. "This can't be happening. There's no way." Biologically, genetically, it doesn't make sense. But his gut didn't care about science. His gut said believe her. The outpost's main comms tower buzzed faintly in the distance. If anyone found out he was hiding a non-human life form, let alone a pregnant one, he wouldn't just be fired. He'd be detained, interrogated, erased. This wasn't first contact protocol. This was treason. 12 hours earlier, a voice had cut through the radio static. Vega Station, this is command. We've detected something anomalous over Zone 43 Beta. You got eyes on that? Nathan had answered back. Calm. Professional. Negative, command. Probably atmospheric interference. No impacts within sensor range. He had lied, because he had already seen the wreckage. A spacecraft, or something that resembled one. Half buried in snow like a meteor that had burned out just before impact. He'd been the only one close enough to investigate. And what he found wasn't a pilot or an invader. It was her. He remembered the blood on her lips. The way she gasped for air like she had never tasted this planet before. He had wrapped her in his coat, whispering, "It's okay. I've got you." He hadn't even thought twice. Now, she was healing. Fast. Too fast. The next morning, Nathan sat by the heater, drinking coffee that tasted like burned regret. She was still asleep. Her breathing had evened out, but something else had changed. Her wound closed. The gash that had split her side clean open was now a faint, silvery scar, like old tree bark or melted glass. Human healing didn't work that way. Alien healing apparently did. He heard a shuffle and looked up. She was standing, wrapped in a thermal blanket, skin gleaming faintly, eyes alert. She walked with slow, deliberate steps toward the window flap of the tent and stared out at the ice, at the foreign world around her. Nathan stood too. "Hey, careful. You shouldn't be." "I remember," she said softly. He stopped. "You do." She nodded. Explosion. I escaped. They followed. I hid in the cold. They? Nathan asked, stepping closer. "Who's that?" She turned to face him. "Hunters. My kind. Different path. No mercy. They erase." The word hit hard. She didn't say kill. She said erase. Like they wanted her gone from existence. As if she were a defect. "What about the ship? Are they coming?" She didn't answer. Just looked at him. The fear in her glowing eyes sharp now. "You," she said. "You changed the outcome." Nathan swallowed. "Look, I need a name. Something to call you." She tilted her head. Thought. Then, Elira. He repeated it slowly. Elira. Her lips curved. Almost a smile. Later that day, alarms blared across the compound. Nathan dropped his tools and bolted to the perimeter console. Something had tripped the outer sensor grid. He stared at the flickering readout. Movement. East quadrant. 3 signatures. Too big to be wolves. Too fast to be human. "Shit," he muttered. He sprinted back to the infirmary tent. Elira was standing again, alert, scanning his face. "They're here," he said. She didn't ask how he knew. She closed her eyes. "I feel them." "You can feel them." She pressed her palm to the air, a shimmer of light dancing across her skin like static. "Their energy. It's close. Are they here for you?" Or, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't want to ask if they were here for the child. She took his hand suddenly, pressing it between both of hers. "I must not be found." Nathan stared at her. "Then we need to move. Now." He pulled a satellite map from the shelf, unrolled it on the cot. "There's an abandoned mining tunnel 5 kilometers north. Old silver line. Not monitored. We can hide there until the storm covers us." She looked at him, silently asking one thing. "Will you really do this?" Nathan didn't hesitate. "I'm not leaving you behind." As the sun began to vanish behind the horizon, they left the outpost. Elira wrapped in layers of gear. Nathan carrying a pack with what little gear they had. Blankets, emergency rations, heat cells, and weapons. The snow was brutal, blinding, but they moved, together. Halfway to the tunnel, Elira stumbled. Nathan caught her. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "They see through storm. They smell us." He cursed. "Keep going. We're almost there." Then, behind them, a shriek. High, piercing, not human. Nathan didn't turn to look. He ran. And Elira, despite her alien body still recovering, ran with him. When they reached the tunnel, breathless and shaking, Nathan slammed the steel hatch behind them. Silence crashed over them like ice water. Alira collapsed to her knees. Her hand again pressed to her belly. Nathan fell beside her. "You're safe," he said, voice hoarse. For now. But even as he said it, he knew. This was only the beginning. The cold inside the tunnel was different. Not the biting, dry cold of the Alaskan air, but a damp, creeping chill that sank into the bones and clung there. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Nathan lit a flare, casting red, flickering light across rusted pipes and old mining equipment. Alira leaned against the wall, her breath shaky but calm. Her skin had dimmed, no longer softly glowing, now dull like storm-dark clouds. Her strength was fading. Nathan handed her a blanket and crouched beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, pressing a hand to her abdomen. "The life inside is growing. Too fast." Nathan's heart skipped. "What do you mean, too fast?" She looked at him, eyes tired. "Our forms, incompatible. My biology adapts, compensates, accelerates." Nathan stared at her. "Are you saying it's hurting you?" She didn't answer. That silence was answer enough. Nathan stood, pacing in the narrow space. "There has to be something I can do. Some way to slow it down." Alira's voice was quiet. "Not unless I return to my kind. But they won't save me. They'll destroy both of us." A horrible truth settled in his chest. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a countdown. Hours passed in near silence. Nathan built a small thermal circle using heat packs and scavenged wiring from an old power panel. Alira watched him. Even weakened, there was something steady in her gaze. Focused, curious. "You've killed before," she said softly. Nathan stopped. "Yeah, Afghanistan. 2 tours." She tilted her head. "Do you carry pain?" He gave a short, bitter laugh. "Every day." Alira leaned forward. "Then why save me?" Nathan took a long breath. "Because I saw someone broken, bleeding, alone. I've been all those things. I couldn't walk away." A flicker passed over her face. Not just understanding, respect. "I was a guardian," she said, "before I fled." He turned to her. "Of what?" She hesitated. "Knowledge. The old archives. Forbidden science. Like interbreeding with humans." She nodded once. "We studied your kind. Watched. Long ago, one of ours came too close. There was connection. The result was catastrophic. They erased all records. I found them." Nathan's blood ran cold. "So this already happened once." Alira closed her eyes. "Yes." And I repeated the mistake. He knelt beside her. "Hey, look at me. This wasn't a mistake. You were dying. I didn't touch you out of science or curiosity. I saved you because it was right." Her eyes opened. There was something soft there. Something vulnerable. "Then you're not like them." Just as Nathan was about to speak again, the tunnel shook. A low rumble. Not seismic. Footsteps. He grabbed the old motion sensor he'd brought from the outpost. The screen flickered. 3 contacts. 50 meters. Approaching fast. Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. "We have to move." But Alira didn't rise. "I cannot run again." "You don't have to. We'll hide deeper in." He helped her up, slinging her arm over his shoulders, guiding her down the narrow corridor deeper into the mine. Behind them, the footsteps grew louder, inhuman. A strange, clicking cadence, the echo of metal against rock, then a sound like static tearing open, followed by silence. Nathan froze. Alira whispered, "They're here." They ducked into an old utility room, a hollow space behind rusted beams. Nathan crouched, his pistol drawn. He checked the magazine 3 times. 5 rounds left. Not enough. Alira pressed her back to the wall, breathing hard. Her skin shimmered again, just for a second, like a defense mechanism waking up. Then they saw it. A figure stepped into view beyond the metal grate. 7 feet tall, gaunt, wrapped in black armor that bent light wrong. It didn't walk, it glided. Its face was hidden behind a mask, insectal and smooth, with no mouth or eyes. It stopped, tilted its head. Then it spoke, not in words, but in pulses. Like sonar, like language from another dimension. Alira's body tensed. She gritted her teeth. "It knows." Nathan turned to her. "Knows what?" "That I live. That I carry proof." The creature turned, heading further down the tunnel. 2 others followed behind it, silent shadows. Nathan exhaled. "They don't know where we are." "Not yet." But Alira didn't look relieved. "They will. When the footsteps finally faded, Nathan slumped back. His heartbeat was a hammer in his chest. Alira leaned against the wall, exhausted. He looked at her. What do they want? To erase deviation. Any bloodline outside their design is threat. Even unborn children. Especially them. Nathan clenched his fists. Then we're not just running anymore. Alira met his gaze. You would fight them? You're damn right I would. She reached for his hand. This time, he didn't hesitate. That night, in the frozen silence of the earth, they lay side by side. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart. He looked down at her. If I asked, could you read me? The way you feel them. Alira nodded. Your body is loud, but your mind is gentle. He smiled faintly. It won't always be. I've done things I'm not proud of. We all have. The difference is, you carry it with shame. That means something. Alira's hand moved to her belly again. Nathan asked softly, what will it be like? She answered with a whisper. No. Outside the tunnel, the storm had cleared. But now, the real storm was just beginning. They were being hunted, and the child Alira carried wasn't just a miracle. It was a target. They moved before sunrise. Nathan guided Alira through the maze of frozen tunnels, deeper than any human crew had gone in years. The old maps were useless now. Cave-ins, corrosion, and shifting ice had transformed the mine into a twisted labyrinth. But it was better than being on the surface. Safer. For now. Alira moved slower with each step. Her skin had taken on a translucent sheen, and her breathing was heavier. Whatever was growing inside her, it wasn't just accelerating, it was draining her. Nathan kept one hand on her back, steadying her, the other clutching his flashlight. His pistol, now down to 3 bullets, was holstered at his side. Practically useless, but it made him feel less helpless. They paused in a chamber with a collapsed ceiling, jagged chunks of metal and rock forming a kind of sanctuary. Nathan dropped the pack and pulled out a nutrient gel pouch. Here, he said gently. You need this. Alira took it, but her hands trembled. Something changed, she whispered. Inside. Nathan crouched in front of her. What do you mean? She met his eyes. The child, it's no longer just mine. It carries you. Too much of you. It thinks like you. Feels like you. He stared at her, stunned. Then she added, it's adapting faster than I can survive. Nathan felt his breath catch. No, that's not. There has to be a way to help you. You can't. A deep, rumbling sound cut through the chamber. Not footsteps. A scream. Long mechanical. Alien. Then another, closer. And another. They found the entrance, Alira said. They're coming. Nathan yanked the pack onto his back and pulled her to her feet. Then we don't wait for them. They ran, limping, sliding over broken stone and ice, deeper into the dark. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Not like before. This time, the hunters weren't searching. They were closing in. After nearly an hour, the tunnel forked into a narrow shaft with ice-coated walls. Nathan led them through, until they reached a rusted hatch, half open, frozen in place. Through the crack, a vertical shaft, like an elevator chute, lined with steel rungs. Nathan looked up. There's a comms antenna at the top. If I can power it, maybe I can call for extraction. From who? Alira asked. Your people. I don't know, he admitted. But staying here isn't survival. It's suicide. She looked at the shaft. I won't make the climb. He knew it. She was too weak. Her body had begun to shimmer again. Faint lines of bioluminescence traveling along her skin like veins of living energy. She was burning herself out just to stay upright. He set his jaw. Then I'll go. You hide here. I'll be back. Alira grabbed his hand. Nathan, if they take me, if they reach the child, promise me something. No, he said instantly. Don't talk like that. She pulled him closer, her voice firm. Promise me. You won't let them turn into a weapon. Promise you'll protect it. Nathan's eyes burned. You think I would let anything happen to our child? She didn't flinch. You're human. You doubt. You fear. You break. He nodded slowly. Yeah, but I fight too. The climb was brutal. I saw every wrong. His fingers frozen stiff within minutes. His breath a ragged chorus against the steel walls. But he pushed, meter by meter, muscles screaming. At the top, he kicked open a corroded grate and pulled himself into an abandoned relay station. A small control panel blinked with dying lights. By some miracle, there was still backup power. Nathan jammed in a connector from his pack, bypassed the fried circuits, and began transmitting. Mayday. Mayday. This is Vega Outpost, Emergency Channel 9. Civilian and non-human life form in danger. Request immediate evac at Sector 4 Hatch Delta. Static. Then a voice. This is command. Say again. Nathan nearly sobbed. Repeat. Hostile life forms in pursuit. One hybrid unborn. One alien injured. I need extraction or air support, now. Silence. Then, coordinates received. ETA, 28 minutes. Hold position. Nathan dropped the radio, his knees buckling. He had done it. But even as he exhaled, something moved behind him. He turned. Too late. The hunter was already in the room. Tall. Silent. Armor pulsing. Its clawed hand struck him across the chest, sending him flying into the wall. Pain exploded through his ribs. The creature raised its arm again, and suddenly, a flare of blue light sliced through the air. Lyra. She had climbed after him. Somehow, with the last of her energy, she had unleashed something, raw, electric, ancestral. The hunter shrieked and staggered, smoke rising from his chest plate. Nathan grabbed a metal rod and slammed it into the creature's throat. It fell, but not dead. More were coming. Lyra dropped to her knees. Her glow was gone now, her eyes glassy. Nathan crawled to her. You didn't have to. I had to, she said, voice barely audible. I saw the child's future. With you. Her fingers brushed his chest. Nathan, protect them. Her body convulsed. And then, stillness. He held her for what felt like years. Not even the roar of approaching aircraft could pull him away. She had given everything. For him. For them. And now, Nathan wasn't running anymore. He was fighting. If you've ever rooted for a love that seemed impossible, a love that crossed galaxies, species, and survival itself, then follow this story. Because what happens next will change everything. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Comment below if you protect a hybrid child from another world. There's more to come. The sky over the frozen plains was cracked with fire. Searchlights cut through the storm, illuminating wreckage, blood, and scattered footprints. Dropships hovered in the distance, wind howling as they descended. Black-suited personnel moved like ants across the ice, collecting fragments, scanning for signs of danger. None of them had expected what they found. A man, holding something wrapped in silver thermal blankets, kneeling in the snow, not moving. Nathan Cole didn't speak when the first officer approached. He didn't raise the pistol still clutched in his hand. He didn't resist when they reached for him. He just looked up and said one word. She's gone. They took him to an isolated debrief chamber at Fort Ravenhill, an underground military facility 2 states south. He barely remembered the flight. Just flashes. Lyra's last breath. Her fingers on his chest. Her voice saying protect them. The doctors tried to question him. He didn't respond. Not until they brought in the scans. A floating hollow of an ultrasound. Inside the pod where Lyra's body had been placed, the child still lived. And it wasn't just living. It was thriving. Its vitals were stable. Its growth rate was beyond normal. Its brain activity off the charts. The fetus glowed faintly in the artificial womb, surrounded by a protective energy that no one could explain. They called it Specimen Echo. Nathan called it his child. The interrogation started soft. How did she communicate? What species is she? What was your role in the genetic transfer? Then it turned sharp. Were you coerced? Is this an alien weapon? Did you knowingly compromise national security? Nathan answered every question the same way. I saved her. She saved me. The child is ours. They didn't like that. A week passed. Then 2. They kept him under observation. Psychological assessments. Truth serum. Sleep deprivation. But nothing cracked. Nathan had stopped being afraid. Because something in him had changed. Not just his DNA. His purpose. They gave him a choice. Sign over custody of the fetus. Return to civilian life. Disappear quietly. Never speak of it again. Or be charged with obstruction, conspiracy, and unauthorized contact with an extraterrestrial life form. Nathan looked at the claws. Then looked at the hologram again. Tiny hands. Tiny heartbeat. Floating in light. He signed nothing. And that's when they changed tactics. Dr. Adrian Mallory entered on day 18. Civilian researcher. Biogenetics. Gray streak in her hair. Sharp voice. No patience for bureaucracy. She sat across from Nathan and tapped the tablet showing updated vitals. She's not like the others, Adrian said. You know that. Nathan repeated. Adrian nodded. The fetus is female. That word hit him like a punch. His daughter. She's strong, Adrian continued. Healing at a rate we've never seen. Her cells self-adapt. She's not a danger, Mr. Cole. But she scares them. Nathan stared. Good. Adrian leaned forward. I want to help, but I need to know everything. Every detail. About Alira. About what happened in that tunnel. So he told her. All of it. That night, he dreamed of Alira. Not dead. Alive. Standing in snow. Her hair blowing in the wind. Eyes glowing like twin moons. You must give her a name, she whispered. Nathan reached for her. What name? Alira smiled. One from both our worlds. He woke in the dark, drenched in sweat. The next morning, he told Adrian. Her name is Leora. They moved the child to a private containment pod, surrounded by fields of light and neurostabilizers. Nathan was granted supervised access, 20 minutes a day. The first time he saw her clearly, he forgot how to breathe. She was so small, and yet so complete. Fingers curled, eyes closed, faint pulses of blue light trailing beneath translucent skin. Not human, not alien, something else, something new. He pressed his hand to the glass. Hi, baby girl, he whispered. I'm here. Outside, the debate raged. Inside the Pentagon, across think tanks, whispers among black ops agencies. Was this child a miracle or a threat? Nathan didn't care what they decided. He wasn't asking for permission to love her. One evening, Adrian pulled him aside. There's something you should see. She led him to a private lab, sealed from the main facility. Inside, a simulation display. We ran predictive models, she said, using DNA sequencing from Alira and your own. Neural growth, emotional pattern recognition, cognitive processing. She's not just advanced. Nathan frowned. What do you mean? Adrian turned to him. She could be the next step in evolution. He shook his head. She's just a kid. Adrian smiled sadly. Not for long. That night, Nathan sat in his cell, staring at the wall. Memories of snow, of blood, of fire, of Alira's hand in his. He whispered her name to the dark, then whispered another name, Leora, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel alone. 3 months passed. Winter turned to a bitter spring in the upper territories, but inside Observation Room 7, time felt frozen. Leora floated in her containment pod, suspended in a field of biogel that mimicked a womb, but allowed full visual and neural contact. Dozens of sensors pulsed softly along her body, reading every heartbeat, every flicker of synaptic activity. She was no longer just a fetus. She was learning. Nathan sat in front of the glass every morning now. No more time limits. No more guards inside the room. He had earned that much. After the interviews, the blood tests, the endless observation, what they couldn't understand, they decided to monitor. And yet, none of them could explain how Leora was already responding. At 14 weeks gestation, she should have been barely aware. But she wasn't just aware, she was watching. When Nathan entered, her eyes, pale violet with a faint halo of silver, followed him. When he spoke, her neural activity spiked. When he whispered her name, her tiny fingers moved. She knows you, Dr. Adrian Mallory said, standing behind the observation console. She feels me, Nathan corrected. That's different. Adrian nodded. You're imprinted in her biochemistry. She recognizes your voice, your face, maybe even your emotions. He looked back at the pod. She's not a specimen, not a case study. She's my daughter. Adrian didn't argue. She knew it was true. Later that week, they ran the first interactive sync test. Nathan placed both hands on a neural interface panel, while Leora remained in her pod, surrounded by sensory light. No words were spoken, just intention, connection, and something extraordinary happened. A flood of images burst into Nathan's mind. Not thoughts, not words, emotions, joy, hunger, curiosity, a flash of light, like starlight inside his skull. A soft hum, the sound of snow falling, the warmth of skin. His knees buckled. He pulled back from the interface, panting. Leora blinked slowly, her small hands twitching. "She reached me," he whispered. Adrian looked stunned. "That wasn't Ada. That was communication." Nathan nodded, tears in his eyes. "She's already dreaming." That night, Nathan walked the halls of Fort Ravenhill alone. It was past midnight. The base was mostly asleep, but his mind raced. He stopped at the old rec room. Cold, dusty, long since abandoned by the rest of the crew. Inside, he found an acoustic guitar missing a string and tuned it as best he could. He sat in the silence, strumming gently. The song wasn't perfect. It wasn't even complete. Just a melody that came from somewhere deep, somewhere a lyra had once touched. As he played, he remembered the look in her eyes when she first touched his face. The way she'd said his name like it meant something. "You saved me." He didn't realize he was crying until his voice cracked with a wordless hum. The song faded, but something stayed behind. Resolve. The next morning, Adrian brought news. "She's showing rapid cognitive surges. Neural patterns beyond what we thought possible." Nathan frowned. "Good or bad?" "Both," Adrian admitted. "She's accelerating. We're not sure how long we can keep her in the pod. Her consciousness is pressing against the containment field." Nathan stepped closer. "She's trying to get out." "Yes. What if we remove her too early?" "She could die," Nathan finished. Adrian looked away. "Or survive in a way we don't understand." Nathan placed his hand against the glass. "She's not meant to be contained. Neither was her mother." Adrian paused. "We've developed a synthetic matrix, a surrogate growth chamber. If it works, we can bring her out safely." Nathan nodded. "Do it." The transfer was scheduled 48 hours later. Security was tight. Emergency teams were on standby. Adrian monitored every variable herself. Nathan suited up in sterile gear and stood by as the pod drained. The field lowered, and the gel slowly retracted from around Leora's form. She floated for just a moment, weightless, like a star drifting through space. Then gravity found her. Nathan stepped forward and caught her gently in his arms. She didn't cry. She looked at him and smiled. A faint, glowing warmth passed between them. Neither heat nor light, but something older, something sacred. In that moment, Nathan understood. This was not just his child. This was a bridge between worlds, between species, between everything they feared and everything they could become. For the next week, Nathan stayed with her in the private recovery chamber. He sang to her, fed her, talked to her for hours, even when she was asleep. Her physiology was strange, skin like velvet metal, veins that shimmered, bones that adjusted shape slightly as she grew. But her touch was warm. Her gaze was filled with wonder. And when she gripped his finger for the first time, Nathan knew he'd never be the same. He whispered in her ear, "You're the best thing I never expected." One evening, as Adrian entered with new test results, she stopped in the doorway. Nathan was lying on the cot, fast asleep. Leora was curled against his chest. One of her hands pulsed with soft light, and her other hand hovered above Nathan's chest. Not touching, just glowing. Adrian didn't disturb them. She simply closed the door and wrote in her private journal, "She doesn't just feel his love. She amplifies it. God help us. She was born to change everything." The warning sirens began at 3:12 a.m. Nathan jolted awake in the recovery chamber, the lights above him flashing red. He looked down. Leora was gone. He sprang to his feet, heart pounding. The monitors were dark. The temperature had dropped 5 degrees, and the door, once sealed with biometric lock, was wide open. "Leora!" he shouted, running into the corridor. 2 security guards were already on the ground, unconscious but breathing. No signs of struggle, just a faint trail of luminous footprints, glowing faintly against the polished floor. Not blood, energy. She was leaving a trail. Across the base, systems glitched. Lights blinked. Screens scrambled. Artificial intelligences lost connection. Something was interfering with the grid. Adrienne's voice came through the intercom. "We have a breach. Sublevel Omega has gone dark. Leora is moving through secure sectors we haven't opened in years." Nathan reached the elevator shaft and forced it open. No time for stairs. He climbed the emergency ladder, 2 rungs at a time, sweat and fear flooding every muscle. He wasn't thinking about rules, or consequences, or chains of command. He was thinking about his daughter, and what they were going to do to her. Sublevel Omega, a forgotten floor beneath the lab, once used for weapons testing, now sealed for decades. But Leora had found it. She stood alone in the center of a domed chamber, surrounded by ancient equipment. Lights flickered in the high ceiling. Ice crept along the walls. And in front of her, 3 black-clad figures. Not soldiers, not scientists, erasure agents. The same kind Illyria once fled. They hadn't come from space. They'd been here all along, planted deep in human operations, watching, waiting, and now they had activated. Nathan burst into the chamber just as one of the agents stepped toward her. "Back away from her," he shouted, gun raised. The agents didn't move. The lead one spoke, voice a syntheticus. "This hybrid must be nullified. It destabilizes both bloodlines. She will collapse, Order. She's a child." Nathan barked. "She's my child." "She is deviation," it replied. "Deviation becomes contagion." Leora turned toward her father. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, violet flame around silver stars. She wasn't afraid. She was angry. Her tiny hand lifted. The air shifted, and the lights shattered. A shock wave pulsed from her body, silent, invisible, but devastating. One of the agents was thrown backward into a steel pillar. Another collapsed, convulsing. The third raised its weapon, a weapon that screamed with unearthly energy. Nathan didn't wait. He fired. 3 times. The round slammed into the agent's torso, but kept coming. Leora screamed, and something inside the room snapped. The ceiling cracked. The walls shook. The agent turned toward Leora, and she vanished. Not ran. Vanished. Reappeared behind the agent, her hand glowing. She touched its back, and it disintegrated. Nathan fell to his knees. His weapon clattered to the floor. Leora stood over the fallen agents, chest rising and falling fast. Her body flickered with light and shadow. Her face was that of a child, but her eyes, they had seen too much. She turned to him and whispered, "They won't stop." Nathan stood, barely able to speak. "Then we don't run anymore." She reached for his hand, and for the first time, he felt her fully. All of her. Not just a daughter, but a mind, a memory, a soul carrying 2 legacies. He pulled her into his arms and whispered, "We finished what your mother started." Outside the facility, the military had surrounded the structure. Tanks, drones, commanders shouting orders. They'd seen the energy spike. They'd tracked the anomaly. And now, they were ready to do what they always feared they might have to do. Contain, or destroy. Nathan emerged into the snow, carrying Leora in his arms. The cold bit at his skin, but he didn't care. She was warm, alive, glowing. The troops raised their weapons. He didn't flinch. Adrian stepped through the crowd, hands raised. "Stand down," she ordered. "You shoot him. You start a war with something you can't understand." The general didn't blink. "Then give me one good reason not to pull this trigger." Adrian looked at Leora, then said simply, "She saved us." From them. A long pause. The wind screamed over the ice. Then, the general lowered his weapon. So did the others. For now. But Nathan knew the war wasn't over. It had just changed shape, and Leora, barely born, had already drawn the first line. 3 weeks later, a small, solar-powered cabin rested at the edge of a remote valley in Montana, surrounded by forests that still carried snow in the shadows. No fences, no satellites overhead, just trees, wind, silence, and a new beginning. Nathan stood on the porch, steaming mug in hand. His ribs still ached from the fight. His knuckles bore scars. But he was healing. Inside, laughter echoed. Soft, strange, musical. Leora. She sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, arranging a pattern of stones and moss in perfect concentric rings. Her fingers moved with impossible precision, like she was following instructions no one else could see. Nathan watched her from the doorway. "Hey," he called. "You hungry?" She looked up and smiled, and in that moment, she looked like Illyria. "Yes," she said in her calm, echo-soft voice. "But not for food." He chuckled. "Let me guess. More books." She nodded, eyes glowing faintly. Since the incident at Fort Ravenhill, her development had accelerated. She could already speak in full sentences, could learn an entire language in hours, could move objects without touching them, though she tried not to unless necessary. Adrian had called it a controlled expansion of hybrid awareness. Nathan called it his daughter being brilliant. They spent their days in silence and learning. Leora loved the creek behind the cabin. The sound of the water calmed her. She liked to float twigs down the current and follow them, humming strange melodies Nathan couldn't place. Some days, she cried without warning. Not loud, but deep, like something inside her was grieving a home she'd never known. Nathan never pressed. He just held her until it passed. At night, she sometimes woke screaming. Visions, not dreams. Memories from her mother's blood. Images of a Lyra fleeing across alien ruins. Voices speaking in riddles. Stars that collapsed in on themselves. Technologies too advanced to explain. Each time, Leora would whisper, "They want to find me again." And Nathan would reply, "They won't." And he meant it. They didn't stay totally hidden. Once a week, Adrian visited by helicopter, disguised as a private researcher. She brought supplies, data drives, and fresh test results, and always left with more questions than answers. She's not just evolving, Adrian said one morning. She's shaping what she becomes. Choosing it. Nathan nodded, like a painter with her own DNA. Adrian looked at Leora through the cabin window. You still believe she can live free? Not believe, Nathan said. I'll make sure of it. Adrian hesitated. Others will come, Nathan. Governments. Corporations. Entire empires would kill for what's in her. Nathan didn't blink. Then let them come. But they'll have to go through me. One night, while the fire crackled and rain fell soft against the roof, Leora sat beside Nathan and asked, "Did you love her?" He didn't need to ask who. He stared into the flames. Yes, I didn't understand it at first. But when I saw how she looked at the stars, how she listened to silence, I loved her for how human she was. Even when she wasn't. Leora nodded. She loved you too. I remember. Nathan looked down at her. How do you remember? Leora pressed a glowing hand to her chest. She left pieces of herself. In me. Like song echoes. And sometimes I feel her heartbeat. Nathan pulled her into a hug, his throat tight. She'd be proud of you. She'd be proud of us, Leora corrected. They spent the next day drawing constellations on the walls of the cabin, Leora naming each one in a mix of English and the ancient alien tongue Illyra once used. Will they always hunt us? She asked. Maybe, Nathan said honestly, but I'll always protect you. Leora smiled. I'm not afraid anymore. What? She placed a hand on his chest. Because I have a place. Nathan blinked. Where? Here, she said. With you. In the distance, a satellite shifted its path slightly. A drone paused, hovering just a little longer over Montana before vanishing back into the clouds. The world hadn't forgotten them, but it no longer controlled their story. The fire had burned low. Nathan sat on the porch, staring into the woods as dawn crept in, gold streaks brushing through the trees like cautious hope. In the distance, bird called out. The air smelled of wet pine and melted frost. He closed his eyes and listened. No alarms, no soldiers, no shadows moving in the snow. For the first time in months, stillness. Inside, Leora slept, tucked beneath blankets hand-stitched by Adrienne's sister. She didn't glow as brightly anymore, not because she was weaker, but because she no longer needed to shine in defense. She was learning how to just be. Nathan thought often about the choices that had brought him here. He remembered the moment in the crater when he lifted a Lyra from the snow. No logic, no orders, just instinct. 1 second of compassion. That was all it took to alter the course of 2 species. He smiled faintly. 1 second. People think fate arrives like thunder, but sometimes it comes in a whisper, in a decision no one notices. And in the silence that follows, the universe tilts. Leora stirred as sunlight touched her face. She stretched, yawned, a completely human gesture, and blinked at him. You're thinking loud again, she said. Nathan laughed. Sorry, didn't know you could hear my thoughts. Only when they're heavy. He sat beside her. Was I heavy today? Just a little. What do you hear? She touched his arm. You miss her. Nathan nodded. Every day. I do too, Leora whispered. But she's not gone. How do you know? She looked up at the ceiling, eyes glowing faintly. Because every time I choose kindness, I feel her smile. Nathan swallowed hard. That's beautiful. It's hers, she said. I just carry it. They walked together later, following a narrow trail through the woods. Leora picked up stones, leaves, feathers, fascinated by everything. "I want to show people I'm not dangerous," she said. "You will," Nathan answered. "But not because you owe them that. You'll do it because you choose to." She nodded slowly, like you chose to save Mom. Exactly. They reached a clearing. The sun poured through the trees. Leora sat in the grass and drew a symbol in the dirt. Half alien glyph, half English letter. "What does it mean?" Nathan asked. She smiled. "Future." Later, Adrian arrived. She brought good news. "The world's changed," she said, slowly. But people were starting to ask the right questions. Not what is she, but who is she? Nathan looked at his daughter, now playing with a butterfly. "She's Leora," he said. "That's all they need to know." Adrian nodded. "And maybe that's enough." That evening, Nathan wrote a letter. Not to anyone in particular, just words he needed to release. Asterisk, she wasn't supposed to survive the crash. I wasn't supposed to find her. We weren't supposed to fall in love or create a life together. And yet, here we are. My daughter carries a universe in her veins. Not because of her biology, but because of the love that made her. They'll keep watching, wondering, maybe even fearing. But I'll keep teaching her one thing. That love, when chosen against all odds, isn't weakness. It's evolution. Asterisk. The stars came out quietly that night. Leora pointed at a constellation. "That one," she said. "I want a name after her." Nathan looked. 3 bright stars in a crooked triangle. "What do we call it?" She thought, then whispered, "The Guardian." 10 years later, a classroom shimmered under soft artificial skylights, high above a city that hadn't existed a decade ago. New Haven, they called it. An independent colony nestled between old mountain ranges and abandoned satellite fields. Built in secret, grown in silence. A place where humans and extrabiological citizens coexisted, not as threats, but as neighbors. The world hadn't become perfect, but it changed, and much of it started with her. Leora stood in front of the room, tall now, graceful. Her violet skin had faded into a subtler hue, like twilight after rain. Her eyes still held galaxies. Her hair, long and dark blue, framed a face that was neither fully human nor fully alien, but undeniably alive. Behind her, on a holographic board, glowed the title of her lesson, How One Act of Compassion Altered the Future of 2 Civilizations. She looked out over her students, hybrids, refugees, orphans from both worlds, and began, "My name is Leora, and I was never supposed to exist." They listened. No one spoke. And yet here I am. Not because I was created in a lab or designed by fate, but because someone chose love over fear. After class, she walked alone through the garden that stretched across the roof. The wind smelled like lemon trees and old metal. A tall man waited at the edge of the path, arms crossed. Older now, beard streaked with silver, but strong. "Nathan," she smiled. "You always wait." He shrugged. "I'll always show up." They sat together beneath the solar canopy, watching the sun dip below the horizon. "Do you ever think about her?" Leora asked. Nathan nodded slowly. "Every day." Leora tilted her head. "What would she think of all this?" Nathan smiled. "That you're more than she ever hoped, and that I got very lucky." Leora rested her head on his shoulder. "And you?" he asked. "What do you think of it all?" She watched the stars begin to bloom in the sky. "I think we're just getting started. If you believe love can change everything, if you believe in the power of sacrifice, connection, and rewriting destiny, subscribe to the channel. We've got more stories like this waiting for you. Leave a comment. Would you protect a child born from 2 worlds? And remember, sometimes the strongest force in the universe is simply choosing not to walk away. Thank you for reading.